All right, we got two guests on the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast today. Barry, Dan, and Danny Weisman. How are you guys doing today? Barry, we'll start with you.
Doing awesome. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Danny, how you doing, sir?
Horrible.
No,
this has made my day. Excited to talk.
Oh, frick yeah. This is going to be fun here. We're going to talk about you guys, Obsessed Media, what that's all about. Give me a little lesson on media today, what we need to know. How does that sound?
Sounds awesome.
Sounds good.
And of course, we're going to kick things off a little unconventional here. We have two guests, and I love trivia. So I have ChatGPT'd some trivia questions for you both. And the rules here, this will be media and buying trivia. You will have to buzz in. You can buzz in at any point.
Okay.
If I'm saying the question and you buzz in, I will stop the question and you must answer.
And buzz is like we go bzz.
Yes. Now that I need to hear your buzzes just so.
Bzz.
Okay.
Bzz.
All
That's
right.
pretty. Okay.
Do you want to do different buzzes?
I'm going to do hammer. Okay. Buzz.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll stay with my current buzz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And then there will be 7 questions. Can we have a winner with that? I think you
Yeah,
can.
you can do best of 7. Yeah.
7
4,
questions.
Won't need them.
Was that trivia number 1? Bzz.
Yeah,
First
yeah.
4 wins?
Exactly. Yes.
All right. This will be media and buying trivia. Question number 1. What does CPM stand for?
Bzz.
I'll give it to you, Barry.
It's cost per thousand. The M is the Roman numeral for 1,000.
That is correct. It's mille.
Mil.
Mille.
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 Yeah.
Mille.
You guys seen that ad? Like the Mille ad? They're like
No.
pronouncing. All right.
We're just
good.
media people. We just, we place the vibe.
Question number 2. Which company invented programmatic advertising as we know it, launching the first ad exchange in 2007?
Really? I don't.
Bzz.
Sure.
Barry?
Google?
That is correct. You got 2?
It's like a safe bet.
You have to keep your own scores. You got 2?
I got 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 out
This
of
isn't
7.
going well.
Yeah.
That's why I said horrible. I knew I would do poorly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
said amazing.
There's
Yeah,
a couple
exactly.
questions left here. What's the standard length of a US TV upfront buying cycle?
Bzz.
Barry again.
It's 12 months.
That is correct. About 1 year. Negotiations happen each spring for the next broadcast season. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
It is correct. And our broadcast season is from October through September. So it's not
That
a
is
calendar
correct.
year.
So do I
So it's a little
resign?
off.
If
You're
I go. Okay.
you're almost 0 for 4.
All right. Good.
Alrighty.
Good. This is where the comeback begins.
Exactly.
This is it. It's game time here. What does make goods refer to in media buying? Yep.
That's when someone, a advertiser has a contract with a publisher or a network, and they screw something up, and they have to give back some impressions or the requisite value of what was screwed up.
That sounds good to me. That it says here.
Value, doesn't
Yeah,
That's
I
correct.
just tried to sound smarter because I'm 0-3.
Yeah.
Free ad inventory given to advertisers when a placement under delivers on promised impressions or ratings.
Yeah. That's a nice way to
yeah.
say it, because sometimes it's just like
It's a make good.
It's a mess up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a mess
you
up,
know.
make good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
We should probably do that for our company.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
okay.
Well, just don't mess up.
What's the score?
3-1 Barry.
3-1.
Barry takes the lead here. Which platform replaced Twitter Amplify as its branded video ad product?
Bzz. Twitter?
No, it's incorrect.
X?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
all right.
All right.
That makes
you
more
go.
sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
good.
Danny, how many you have?
I have 2.
It's 3-2.
3-2.
3-2.
What is share of voice measuring?
Bzz. That is the percent of the overall category that your advertising represents.
Yes, that is correct. Percent of total ad presence a brand holds within its category.
Barry won. Do I shake his hand?
Barry one. Do you want to do the last question?
Sure.
What is the term for when agencies mark up media costs without client transparency?
That is principle-based buying?
It could be. I'm going to give you the answer. It says non-disclosed arbitrage or media rebate schemes.
Well, that sounds terrible.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says
Must be transparent. Must be good.
It says here this is a major issue. Obsessed media calls out often.
Well-
is this true?
Well, transparency in media is a big thing that we talk about, and the newest, Danny called it up. The newest way that a lot of big agencies are doing this is called principle-based buying. So an agency means that you are acting as an agent on a client's behalf. You're doing what's in their best interest. A lot of the bigger media agencies no longer can call themselves agencies, because instead what they're doing is they're buying media in bulk. Sorry, hit the mic. They're buying
You're so
media
passionate
in,
about it that we-
exactly.
Yeah, this is getting good.
They're buying media in bulk. doing those big negotiations, and then they resell it to the client, which they can say to the client, because I'm buying it in bulk, I can sell it to you for a better rate. But if you're the client, now you have to ask the question, are you selling me this because it's what's best for me? Or are you selling this to me because it's what you make more money on? So that's now principle-based buying, which is we think a huge problem in the media industry, because it's taking so many client dollars and pushing it towards buys that might not be actually what's best for those clients.
I feel like they should say, hey, I got a discount on this.
Right.
This will help you. It'll save you some money.
Yeah.
Are you interested? We think it could fit the media plan.
Yeah. And they might say that they got a discount on it, but they won't tell you how much they got a discount on it. They won't tell you how much it originally cost. And they won't tell you versus other media what that discount is necessarily. And so, again, it's not necessarily that principle-based buying unto itself is bad. It's the implications on the client. It's like, is this what's best for my media plan?
Well, if I'm the client, I'm going to say, well, what's the deal here? How much are we saving here? How does this affect me? And they have to answer that, right?
They don't necessarily have to answer that anymore because they're no longer your agent. They're now a principal. Which is like legal terms. They're buying on they're no longer buying on your behalf. They're buying on their behalf.
What do you guys do?
Not that.
Yeah, we're 100% transparent. We're transparent on our rates, on costs. We don't do markups on media. We don't do markups on ad tech fees, any of that stuff. 100% transparency.
I would say too that the bigger brands, that model is very attractive because you're spending so much in advertising. You need cheaper rates. You need your impressions to go farther. For challenger brands, for brands that are trying to stand out, if you're just forced into the same avenues that everyone else is and not getting transparency on how those channels are being transacted on, you're just going to suffer and you're not going to stand out. And so that a lot of the brands we work with want to challenge, want to do things differently, and they don't have the same resources or budget to leave it up to principle-based buying to give them or not give them the right deal.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's funny that was your last question, because we actually, I was talking to a client, somebody who works for, who is a client, but is not our client. A few weeks ago, we were out to breakfast. There's an old friend of mine, and I mentioned he works at a very big company, and they buy through a very big agency, and they're probably spending a few $100 million a year. And I mentioned principle-based buying and asked him sort of his perspective on it, and he didn't know what it was. And it sort of led us to ask a few different. It's been talked about in ad trades and things like that, but we asked a few other friends of the agency, other clients about it, and nobody on the client side had heard anything about it. And when you explain it, it actually takes a little bit of time to explain, as we just sort of demonstrated. And for a lot of clients, they don't really understand like the problem with it. And we were talking in the office afterwards about how we both have young kids, and one of the things that we love about children's books is how they take really, really complicated problems and they distill them down to very simple ideas. And so we use that actually as a inspiration to start a children's series. We wrote our first children's book was actually about Otis the owl, who's an owl, but a nice, thoughtful. His goal is just to help people. He helps Brandy the bear, who's the client, and teaches her lessons on advertising and media that are can seem really complicated, but are actually a little quite simple. And a lot of times the bigger agencies want it to sound complicated, want it to sound more complicated than it is. When honestly, most media we find pretty straightworard.
Oh, I gotta get these.
Yeah, the next one comes out next week, so we'll send you.
I
would love that.
Principle-based buying.
Well, principle-based buying, it was the first one, and the next one that comes out is on like bots and ad fraud.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that. That'll be good to learn about. So let's back things up. Tell me about the media landscape. I've done 500 episodes now, mainly with creative agency professionals. So, and I have a pretty good understanding. It's like buying the ad and placing it at the right place at the right time, the right person, touch points, and all of that. But really, I want to know what's going on in the industry right now that we should know about. Independent holding company. Just give me the 10,000 foot view of media, the media world.
I think, and I heard a friend of the agency, Tom Morden, say this recently as well, is that there's never been more choices for consumers, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Netflix, Hulu. There's so many different choices.
There's a million streaming services. Exactly. I don't even know. Like, I don't have any.
You have zero.
I have Amazon Prime.
Okay,
sure.
But like, I'm on TikTok like all the time.
Sure.
But like, even to watch a football game, I have no clue where you would even begin.
100%. And they make, it's so confusing for people to watch and to listen and to stream, as well as for brands. Where can I place those bets? And where the bets have been placed over the last I would say, 10 years continues to be in places that provide the most measurable outcome to the brand. Can I see my return on investment directly from the brand? Am I able to track back how many people saw the ad, clicked the ad, converted on the ad? Because budgets are tight. Marketers want to prove out performance. And so a lot of money is funneling into places, some of them good, but some of them that just provide that measurement. And a lot of what Barry and I have seen and been doing from starting the company is trying to move marketers away from some channels or places that are overpromising those results and into things that we believe in drive attention, reach, and really quality from a media perspective. And a lot of that is because we work with a lot of great creative partners and we want to showcase their work to the audiences that they're trying to reach as well as the clients are trying to reach. But there's just been so much overpromising of short-term results from some of these platforms that a lot of marketers are placing their media bets in that we're trying to move them out of.
There's so many. Like, what are some like more nimble placements, like creative placements that you guys have done recently that, are outside of X or Meta or like the usual Googles and the big players? Like,
yeah, I think so. We're still big believers in old school TV and outdoor, but I would say like we're very gung-ho about reaching into like these niche communities that a lot of, people are a part of and that you might not realize are ad supported. I think Strava's a good one. We talk to Strava all the time. Yeah, there you go.
I heard it's a dating app now.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. You get in there, find somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think communities like that where you don't realize that a brand could be a part of, and you could still have a pretty outsized presence because not a lot of brands are looking at a place like that. I think even things like, movie theaters, I think get ragged on a lot. Attendance is down. Movies are.
It's the best. So you get there early. I got to see the trailers
and even now they time it so that most of the trailers are showing up when maximum butts are in seats. They've done the math on that.
But especially because younger audiences are going to the theaters way more than older audiences, so it's a nice place to reach that audience, especially around certain genres. So it's like you might not want to touch a horror genre as a brand, but it is what is driving a lot of people back to the theater. So there's a lot of like pockets, I would say, of the media landscape that people are probably overlooking just because they want to still be on Meta predominantly, Google predominantly.
Yeah. We're big believers that every brand or every plan should be built bespoke to not only the brand but sort of that individual situation. So we're working with a financial services brand that's trying to promote sort of better financial wellness and make people understand sort of early investment as it's more of it's a marathon, not a sprint. So that leads to places like Strava as a partner for them.
Genius.
And within that, we're also
that's
we're trying to promote sort of good habits, and financial wellness is a good habit. So we're looking at partners like Duolingo for them, and other places where people go learn for sort of micro habits.
Yeah.
So on one side, it could be digital partnerships like that for a dog food brand who's sort of like a healthy dog food brand. For fresh food, we're working with, or we're talking about sort of like, larger activations next year around broadcast around The Bachelor and sort of that ecosystem, because, it's not just the TV show or the streaming partnership. It's also sort of other things around that podcast that, where people go and listen and articles around it and things like that. So it's not just, about sort of what even the individual placement is. It's how do I create sort of an ecosystem that does hit the community that you were referencing and sort of in a Strava world.
I love it. It's like a different type of creativity you guys are using.
100%.
And I think a lot of what we're trying to do with the clients we work with is what we see is that they're imprisoned. Wow, that's crazy. Strong word.
Keep going.
Almost like imprisoned by the algorithm.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is a lot of their media buys are in those places I mentioned, like Facebook and Google, and you leave it up to AI, you leave it up to the algorithms to hopefully target the right people, to hopefully serve the right creative to the right audience at the right time. And when you peek under the hood at those places, you see a couple things. The first is that those impressions that are serving on those platforms are not being seen for very long. So a standard that Barry and I have, and this is based on research, is that it takes at least 2.5 seconds to make a memory. And when we work with clients, one of our first products is usually like an audit. Like we basically peek under the hood at like, what have you been running today? And how have you been retaining that attention? We're seeing in some cases, 80%, 85%, 90% of impressions are not seen for longer than 2 seconds. Wow. So if you're a challenger brand and you need to make a mark and stand out in someone's head, 90% of your media spend is almost being wasted because it's not even long enough to make an impression. So, we're seeing things like that. We're seeing audiences that are undefined, so it's hard to know who really is being targeted with the media. We're seeing ads that kind of look like the category, so it's hard for you to be distinctive and break out if you're just in the same small screens and formats as everyone else. So it's a lot of what we're doing is trying to just, what Barry said before is, I think a lot of media companies and agencies like to make things complex, but pretty simply, you need to reach the right people. You need to grab their attention and do it at a fair cost. We try to triangulate like all of the work we do around those three things to make clients' media better, because that's what we're all about. That's what Obsessed Media is all about,
right.
Making media better.
Making media better. So,
or for better media. I probably got the sequence of those words wrong. No, but making media better is cool too.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm curious. So, got to know more about you guys. So, how did you guys meet, and when did you guys think like you could do this on your own and create your own company? What was that catalyst point?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we met, we worked together at our last agency, and Dan and I worked really closely on a handful of brands. I was more of the account and the business lead, and Danny was the media lead. And so we had a really good partnership where we were collaborating on a bunch of clients at any given time, and trying to make their media better. And so I think we worked together for probably 6 or 7 years there.
Yeah.
It was probably about halfway through that we first discovered that each of our ambition eventually was to start our own agency. But at that point, I just had my kids, and then Danny had his daughter, and so the timing was never right.
Kids, man.
Kids, yeah.
For or against?
Very much for.
Is my wife listening? No, yes,
yeah.
for.
Yes. But the timing was never right, and we knew that whenever we were ready to do this, we were going to sort of throw everything into it. But once that's out there, once you know that about someone, and once sort of that that is something that you hold deeply and you really want to do, it's hard for when something when you have a tough meeting or when something's not going your way or whatever else to sort of go, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to do it this way, or wouldn't it be great if we could just sort of focus on the things that we want to grow in the business into? And so it was December of last year. We said, no, let's take the plunge. Now's the time, and we launched in January this year.
What was that moment? Why that specific time? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we were just we were spending a few days together at a conference, and we just looked up and said, we'd talked about this enough, as sort of like the what ifs, and we said, I think I'm ready, and I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
We often say like I wish we remembered like this aha moment, or this sort of like this, this sort of, something that this lightning bolt moment. But honestly, we just looked at each other and we said, like, I think there's a market for this. I think we can do this. Danny mentioned our audit product. A lot of the work that we do is much more consultative than it is media planning and buying even. It's helping brands to understand the benefits of media, opportunities on the other side. We don't even have to be the ones who are planning it. So for some brands, we're operating as their like head of media, but they have internal media planners and buyers. Yeah. And so we had this theory that as more and more buying is being pushed into clients, that they have the ability to buy, and they want to, because of data infrastructure and sort of because of all those systems, they want to keep that buying close, but we can make that media better. And so we envision sort of, I think there's a little bit of a different model here. And we talked about that for a few days, and then put something on paper and said, all right, let's go.
I'd also say that it's not like I would have wanted to do this alone, like not to toot this guy's horn, but I wanted to do it with Barry.
Yeah.
We had worked closely together at our last company. I think we had shown each other through various projects that we did good work together. We worked, and not just good work, quick and thoughtful work, which I feel like is the challenge sometimes in this industry. You want to make a perfect product, but it feels like it takes weeks and weeks and weeks. And Barry and I, whether it was from just good chemistry or working together for a long time, just felt like we could really nail like challenging briefs in a short amount of time and move on to the next one and move on to the next one. So I feel like we had some proof of concept from our last company of doing that for clients or pitches or whatever. And then like honestly, every year that passes by, it feels like you just get more comfortable in your current role. And it had been on our minds for a little bit. And then finally it was like, it's always going to be a challenging time to leave a stable job in a company and start your own thing.
Yeah.
Especially with family, especially with responsibilities. But it's not like 2026 would have been an easier year for that. It was 2027. Right. And so like that, eventually you got to just call it and say, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
And then when you were doing that planning and you made that decision, what about like the first client? Like, did you have that already? Did you have some connections going into it? Was that a part of the decision? Give me like
Yeah, it's a
that.
good question. Yeah, we had a lot of we had worked with somewhere between 50 and 50 and 70 brands over the past couple of years.
How many?
50 to 70 brands
Wow.
at our last agency. Because a lot
Take
of
a couple of those.
well, it was more that a
plenty.
lot
We
of those
wish.
people, and again, between Danny and my different roles, we worked closely with and interfaced with a lot of different people at those companies, and we had really good relationship with them. And then they would leave those companies and go to other places. So we had a really, really good network when we started. And we were pretty diligent about the list. We made out a list of probably between 500 and 600 people. These are potential people for us to reach out to.
Mom and dad were like,
They were on the list, but low on the list. Yeah, exactly. And so we had a foundation, and we thought that we had this an interesting product that was different enough from other agencies or sort of other media practitioners, and so we started with that. And we were, as soon as we were able to publicly or to privately announce it, we went to a few of them with sort of that offering and said, hey, we're offering more consultation services that we can also plan and buy media on the side too, and sort of went to market with that. And we were lucky enough that a few of those clients who we had good relationships with were like, yeah, I actually could use that in this moment. The timing was good too. It was like at the very beginning of the year, and so we knew a lot of brands were standing up their annual plans. And so yeah, we were able to out of the gate, before we even like publicly launched, we were able to get 2 clients and then use that as a jumping off point.
Nice.
And also just, build our own confidence. I joked that when we told friends and family that we were doing this, everyone's, oh, you're going to crush it. You're going to do amazing. And then when we told our coworkers, everyone's like, oh, you're going to do amazing. We're so excited for you. And then on that launch day, you realize everyone, like, you have to tell me that. You're either related to me or I've known you forever, or if this goes well, you might want a job someday. And so when we launched, we're like, oh, is the market gonna care at all? So again, it was very amazing and very fulfilling to sort of get responses from clients and potential clients and say, yeah, actually, I'd love to have a conversation. A lot of clients, they look at their own media mix and they don't think that it's working as well. But so many of the brands we work with don't have media expertise in-house. And so a lot of clients are just looking for, hey, I'm anybody who can help with this, especially if the model isn't, and I have to plan and buy all of your media. I think that's what scares a lot of clients about media agency relationships. Is it feels like, well, if I go with one, I have to do everything through them. And so by being a bit more flexible, a bit more nimble, we've really change that model.
We're seeing that with the creative agencies too. It's like some of these shops now, they're more consultative or like strategy first, like working with the in-house agency. And then, by the way, if you need some help with the execution of the creative work, we could do that too.
Exactly. And this was a lot of our inspiration in the past few years, because a lot of those shops have that we're close with and that we know have had a lot of success. And so that was honestly part of the that opportunity for us too, is we saw that happening on the creative side. And a lot of people think, well, media is different because you do want all your buying in one place and all those things. But again, that's what led us to that insight and that opportunity, because we knew that a lot of clients were in-housing that media. And so there was a gap specifically on that strategy side, or of the how do I up-level media? And that became sort of our mission and the opportunity for us.
Love it. I need to ask, because I've asked this before on the show, but I always am curious, like creative meeting media, like in general, like is what comes first? Like,
Sure.
Does the media plan come first? Does the creative idea get placed after that? Like, what's the majority of the time? How's this stuff working?
It's funny because when I started in media, I went to that first interview for like an assistant planner role, and I had no idea what media was. Like literal, like I thought it was copywriting. Like I remember I showed it to my first interview and I'm like, I love writing about brands and products. And they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. Can I have a job? It was like, whatever. So I feel like from the beginning, I was like, yeah, what does what and what comes first? But I think Barry and I have had the privilege of working with a lot of great creative agencies, a lot of brands that admire creativity. And I don't know if this is a cop-out answer, but the best answer is they're working hand in hand the whole time. Those have been the best relationships and the best campaigns and the best work that I've been a part of, that, media is in the room at the beginning, giving ideas about audience research and platform opportunities and what other people in the category are doing, because media agencies have a lot, in my experience, tend to have a lot more tools than creative agencies, and so can sign up for data and research that the creative agency might not have, and vice versa. If a media team says, "Hey, we got this really cool opportunity from this streamer," if you give that to the creative team early enough, then they can bake that into the idea in such a strong and disruptive way that doesn't just have to be beholden to the best practices that you send in a spec sheet or a document. And so, in our experience, it's throughout the process, but there's a buy-in from the beginning from the client and from the teams to bring that together from the start. Because if it's too chopped up along the way, you're going to look at, and some of our clients are maybe not spending a lot of money to other people, but they're spending a lot of money to them. Right. And so you can't afford, the mistakes feel bigger because you can't afford for creative and media to not talk together. And it's like, we ran this video campaign, but was it the creative? Barry and I also like to talk about the stats when it comes to media mix modeling, that 60-70% of the impact is from the creative. And so we're doing the brands we work with a disservice if we don't give them the best research and opportunities available to make that creative pop and to make it as impactful as possible. So along the way,
how do you guys stay knowledgeable and up to date on what those opportunities are?
So I think there's two sides of it. I think there's having good relationships with the marketplace. And I think a lot of shops, if you lean into programmatic advertising, you just don't have the same relationships than you would if you lean into direct relationships.
Let's break this down from a fundamental standpoint. So you're saying some media companies or media planners will just be like, we're doing programmatic. And I believe it just does it automatically. Like places the ad on a more marketplace, right? It's all automatic, right?
It's it's going to find me the perfect impression to serve at the right time with the right creative.
I would do that all day. A lot of
small agencies.
The problem is that it's a fallacy. It's generally not true. There was actually a study that came out a few months ago that it was about the effectiveness of targeting, and what it showed was for brands that were programmatically trying to target women, about 51% of the impressions were successful. I might as well throw something at a wall, because 51% of the population are women. So it showed the same thing with brands trying to target moms, and it was only 25% effective, and that's about the same percent as moms. So
it's not effective. But is it going to get better with AI? I forgot what we were talking about. But
no. Who cares, right? It's your podcast, yeah.
But is programmatic going to get better? Is that a fear or something that you guys are acknowledging?
Probably not. It hasn't gotten demonstrably better in the past 20 years. Now, I think there are different versions or different places where it can be better on social because you're getting more first party data. Yeah. But even think about I'm targetable on Facebook. I haven't updated my Facebook profile since 2010, so it thinks that I'm based on the Facebook data, I'm however old I was, bachelor,
cool guy in college,
so cool. And now I'm a dad with 2 kids and blah blah blah.
Not so cool.
My profile change, your profile changes, and even on in a first party system. Yeah. So there are a lot of reasons why programmatic, even the data isn't very effective. The other thing that's really important to note about where you show up is if the output is that I'm showing up in a 300 by 50 mobile banner, and I'm trying to break through as a new brand to somebody, it's really hard to imagine that this tiny little message is going to be the thing that breaks through versus a more impactful video spot, which might be purchased. You can purchase some video programmatically, but a lot of it is in the long tail of these apps that you're referencing, these hundreds of apps that who actually watches these.
Yeah, that's where I want to go deeper, because I'm warming up on this show too. And you asked what's the state of the media landscape, and I think everyone in the media, or most people in media, are obsessed with targeting. Am I targeting the right person? Do I have the right data to target that audience? And we are obsessed with context, because a lot of the inventory that's bought automatically, like you said before, programmatically, is I think I'm reaching the right person, but I'm reaching them on a small screen in a small format on a streaming service that no one has ever heard of. We'll do these audits sometimes, and we'll look at these streaming services that are bought or what the ad products are that they're supposedly serving the ads in. And some of it is, stuff you've heard of before, like Hulu and Peacock, and some of it is something called Canoe. And I don't know what Canoe is. I've never met someone that's like, have you seen that show on Canoe last night? That was amazing. I can't believe they did it again. So, not to say that we're not, all about reaching the right audience and using the right data inputs to do that. But we have over-revved as an industry towards targeting and not in favor of context. And what you get is less investment towards video on big screens in the right places, less investment towards outdoor advertising, less investment towards creators and podcasts and things that we believe in. Because it has to be measurable and it has to be targeted.
It's also inherently less fun. And while I don't think we should be doing things because we think they're fun, consumers feel that too. Effectiveness of ads goes way through the roof if they're more emotive versus more logical, or so and context is part of that emotion too. Of does the message marry with that? And so the more that we lean back into that with the brands that we're working with, we see the effectiveness grow. So I think that is a marriage between media and creativity, and where the message is and what the message is, and sort of the best way to do that is oftentimes, like Danny said, leaning more into context, both in where am I showing up, how am I showing up, what the message is, all those things.
So back, I remember what I was talking about.
Great. Same.
Is how you stay knowledgeable on the opportunities.
Yes.
So you mentioned if we're outside of programmatic, you can go direct. So how do you, I don't know what direct means, but like...
Well, just like transacting directly with a network or a publisher and saying, hey, Hulu, I want to buy this sponsorship. And you get some more access to different kinds of ad inventory that way, whether they be sponsorships of a show or pause ads on a streaming service or first look opportunities.
It's probably more work.
It's definitely more work.
It's definitely more work.
But it's... And I don't know if it's old school, because everything post-COVID feels old school, like just like getting a coffee with someone from a publisher or a network that you want to work with. But that's how you stay in the know. You go out to meetings, you go out to dinners, and you talk to people. You get, you talk more out of the campaign process too. You don't just talk to them when you're sending a request because you have a campaign going on, and you're talking to them because it's a random Tuesday and you want to stay up to date on your media knowledge. But we read and listen to a ton outside of work as well.
I was going to say this. You must know everything that's going on. Like if there's like a special on TV, or if there's like a marathon going on, or if like, I don't know, like Oscars, like all these tentpole events in culture, you guys probably have to be on all of that.
I think it's twofold. I think one of it is like I read and Barry reads and we listen to so much. Like everything from the trades to individual Substack writers to podcasts of just like, and more on like media effectiveness and theory and whatnot. And then there is the culture aspect of like, hey, this movie's coming out. We think this is going to be a banger hit. But I think we get a lot of that from the people around us, the people we've hired at Obsessed, because I do think that is, if you're just starting out in this industry, that is the superpower you can provide that, an old fart like me sometimes like doesn't have as much access to of, hey, this is trending. This is culturally relevant. Yeah, you're not going to see this in a spreadsheet. You're not going to see this on a data pull, but I've been on TikTok for the last week and I just know that this is interesting, or, hey, that, based on this, all my friends are talking about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so I do think that is something that younger people bring to the table when they enter into an industry, and that we're getting from some of the early hires we've had at Obsessed.
I love it. Let's get into that then. How would you break into media today if you guys were just starting out? What role would you pick if you had to do it all over, knowing what you know now in this landscape? What are we doing? What's the game plan?
Yeah. I think I'm very thankful that I like Danny, I stumbled into media. I grew up like liking jingles, and I wanted to work in advertising, but I didn't really know what that meant. I went to a school that didn't really have like an advertising program, and I came to New York, and I just I started applying, and I was lucky enough to get an informational interview at an agency, and again, I didn't even know what I was applying for, but I happened to love Excel, and so we were talking about all the different. I was meeting with an assistant account.
It's a good skill to have.
And she was just asking me questions to help me on my journey. And I mentioned how much I loved Excel, and I probably gushed about Excel for a few minutes of the informational meeting. And she was like, "You should check out media." And I was lucky enough in that first role to land in an integrated role, meaning that like I was planning and buying every type of media that was available, from TV, outdoor, digital was up and coming then, print, so anything across the board. And what I found really useful in that skill was the ability for a client to come to us and say, I have a problem, this is how much money I have to solve it, and what I'm looking for is a holistic recommendation. And so the reason I say all that is because I think the integrated media skill is becoming a lost art. A lot of agencies especially a lot of jobs are in bigger agencies. And so when you work at a larger agency, you might be in a silo or sort of, I work for this division or I only do social or whatever else. And I think it's really, really important as you sort of grow in your media career to have an integrated knowledge or knowledge of multiple channels. So if I were coming back in the industry, I would try to find that role. They are rarer and rarer now of like an integrated planner. But so if I couldn't find that, then I would be pretty focused and intentional about every few years trying to learn new media channels and make sure that I'm becoming a more well-rounded.
So a bucket you're saying in like you're just doing meta, like replacing it like media planning for a specific channel or vertical.
Yeah, and we work with some people who might know a lot about meta and are exceptional at that. The problem is if any media is going to have sort of a marginal cap, eventually it's not going to work as well as the first dollar in. And so when that happens, if you don't have sort of what do I do next? And that's like the best skill of an integrated planner or a strategist across anything is what happens next. So, I think it's helpful to have, and we ourselves have planned and bought Meta. So we know the platforms. It's helpful to be up to date on those. But if you only have that as your one skill, we're believers in generalists over specialists.
That's interesting because it's kind of different from the creative agency. Because I kind of preach, know what role you want, get really good at that specific. You kind of have to specialize.
Sure.
If you want to be creative, if you want to be a copywriter, get really good at writing. Or if you want to be an art director, get really good at Photoshop.
That's totally fair. I guess my pushback on that, or not pushback on that specific advice, but what I would say is become a generalist in, don't be a copywriter for CPG. Understand how copywriting works across the entire industry.
Totally.
Because you will learn one skill that you learn on one brand or one opportunity will help you later.
Totally.
It just feels like our Zag too. I mean, to Barry's point, there's so many specific agencies popping up and specialists popping up where you work with a meta agency, you work with a outdoor agency, you work with a TV agency, but there isn't that group to bring it together. And that group has historically been expensive or you're not sure what sort of team you're getting. So that's why Barry and we grew up as generalists, and not just generalists in media channels, but types of clients, anything from CPG to financial services to D2C brands, to brand and performance marketing, building that awareness as well as capturing it. And so, but it takes time. And so you got to start somewhere. So even if you started in a specialist role, as long as you know that you want to migrate or need to migrate to other areas of the marketing plan or ecosystem, that's the best approach to have.
Got it. I love it. Well, gentlemen, this has been great. How can people reach out if they want to work with you all? Are you hiring? Are there internships? What's going on?
It's a good question. We just made a couple hires, so we're probably not actively hiring in this exact moment. But next up will be more, internships and we're lucky enough to be doing quite well. So I imagine we'll have some open roles coming soon. You can hit us up, either of us, on LinkedIn. Danny is pretty prolific, so he tries to be.
Thank you, Barry.
Than me.
Nice.
Sometimes I get 7 likes, sometimes I get 12.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good ratio.
That's what prolific is.
Yes.
Hit us up on LinkedIn or shoot us a note. I'm Barry at obsessed-media.com.
Yeah.
Or we have a website.
The dash gets
where you can do a contact form. But hit us up. That's in listening to your other podcasts, I think oftentimes you're also asking like advice for people in the industry. My general advice for anybody in the industry is follow up and try to bring a little bit of value to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And all I mean by that is I found jobs by remembering something that was said in an interview and following up on it later, referencing it. Here's an article I read on that. Thank you for sharing that. Anything like that. I think that's just generally, if you are looking for a role in advertising, I know it's a really hard time given AI growth and fewer junior roles opening up. Read. That is one of the things that Danny mentioned earlier. We are big believers in consume content. Read, share, comment on LinkedIn, try to engage in a conversation, and ask people, are you hiring, and what can I do to help?
But this new class of people is so precocious. Like our early hires, I'll give them a shout out. Alex and Madison, they're awesome.
Shout out.
And it's just amazing how intuitive and curious they show up every day. So they work in person with us. And,
love that.
We like it too because I think it's it's hard to learn when you're not overhearing meetings. I think that's the best way to put it, because you're not going to be in every meeting.
Osmosis.
But yeah, exactly. And so that's how I've learned historically over my career. I think Barry too. And so showing up and asking questions, and it's never been easier to do research on the side. Ask ChatGPT, what was that thing I heard in that meeting? And then bring that to your boss and say, hey, I think you meant this. I did some research. Is that what you meant? And then having a conversation like that. So
turn it into trivia.
Do a little trivia.
Fail against your co-founder at trivia.
Yeah.
Feel bad for the rest of the day, that sort of thing. No big deal. A big career to look forward to for everyone. Yeah.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I wish you all the best. I'm going to follow along, and I hope everybody follows you guys, and you guys get more clients.
Man, thanks.
Be freaking successful as hell.
Hey, you too.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.